Hello learners, I am Maria G.S.E. Muhammad, your teacher in oral communication. So I am back for lesson 2, which is communication models. For today's lesson, we have 3 objectives. First, to differentiate the various models of communication. Second, to explain the process of communication through the elements involved. Third, to recognize the importance of the models in understanding the communication process as applied in everyday life. Communication plays a crucial role in human lives. It is our avenue for us to express our thoughts, our ideas, and our feelings. Communicating with others takes us to a new experience. We can either be the ones starting the conversation or the ones receiving the messages. With this, some people may be satisfied with the result of the conversation, or some may be dissatisfied. That's why we are doing things to solve the communication problem. And always remember that the end goal of the communication is always for building better human relationships. Also, communication helps in the development and progress of the society. For today, you are going to learn 3 communication models: linear, interactive, and transactional. Let's have the first one, linear communication model. Have you experienced talking to someone but didn't receive any reaction or feedback at all? That is an example of linear communication. Let's go through linear model. It is a one-way communication. What do we mean by one-way communication? A receiver never responds or has no way of responding to the information conveyed. That's a key feature of the linear communication model. The speaker does not receive any feedback at all. The perfect depiction of a linear communication model is Shannon-Weaver model in the year 1949. Aren't you wondering why it's called Shannon-Weaver? The names of the proponents of this model are Claude Elwood Shannon and Warren Weaver. Both of them are mathematicians. Isn't it amazing that mathematicians are the proponents of this model? Shannon-Weaver model is considered as the mother of all communication models. It is through this model that other models were given birth to. Just a friendly reminder, it is very important for you to remember our previous discussions because it will be applied in the next lessons. I have here the Shannon-Weaver model of communication. This model will let you understand the communication process whenever it is one way. Observe the arrows. They are only pointing to one direction, which makes communication one way. The source starts encoding the message, passing it through a certain channel. This channel can come in forms of face-to-face, broadcast, mobile, written, or electronic. Noise can also be present in this process. Noise can be linguistic, physical, psychological, or cultural barriers. That will be your next lesson, so wait for it. After passing through a certain channel, the receiver receives and decodes the message. The process only stops when the message reaches its destination. The destination is the same with the receiver. And that is the linear communication model and Shannon-Weaver communication model. The discussion will be better when supported with examples. Again, linear communication is a one-way process. The sender does not receive any feedback from the receiver. The president giving a State of the Nation address or SONA. A student who reads a poem to an audience. The principal welcoming the students to school. And these are the examples of events happening in the linear communication model. Scholars believe that there was something missing in the linear communication model. That's why interactive communication model was given birth to. Interactive communication model is a two-way communication process where a response is given after a message is sent, which is missing in the linear communication model. The recipient of the action intentionally or unintentionally gives a feedback associated with the information received. The SRAM model of 1954 is an example of the interactive communication model. The SRAM model is proposed by Wilbur Schramm. He believed that the process of communication is an exchange of thoughts and ideas, which is missing in our first model. The SRAM model tells us that the communication process begins when the sender encodes the message to be decoded by the receiver. The receiver now becomes the sender and sends the message, which is now called a feedback, to the receiver who was the previous sender. The process stops as the receiver interprets the message. I have here situations under the interactive communication model. Again, in this model, communication is a two-way process. The sender receives a feedback from the receiver, and then the process ends. A fanatic commenting on a live feed of his idol. Reminder, the internet is a great avenue for interactive communication. The teacher calling the student for recitation. A classmate asking for a paper. Scholars still believe that there was something lacking in the interactive communication model. That's why transactional communication model was given birth to. The transactional communication model is known to have a circular process. Communication is dynamic. It can happen anywhere, anytime, with people exchanging messages, with people exchanging ideas or even their feelings. The sender and the receiver simultaneously exchange roles. In this sense, communication becomes more effective and complete. The transactional communication model shows a circular process of interaction between the persons involved in the communication, with each one actively participating and sharing ideas with each other. This is the transactional communication model. The model shows us that the communication process starts when the sender sends the message, passing through a certain channel, to the receiver who decodes the message and in turn gives a feedback. It is a circular process where the sender simultaneously exchanges roles with the receiver. The noise may directly or indirectly affect the smooth flow of communication. Let's have examples for the transactional communication model. Again, this model of communication tells us that communication is a two-way process, and the receiver and the sender simultaneously exchange their roles. Students doing their group work. A meeting among government officials. A group of parents discussing the enrollment. These examples have shown us that communication is a circular process. The process does not stop when the receiver sends a feedback. Instead, they continuously exchange roles once more. I want to say thank you very much for watching my discussion, and I hope you learned something from it. And if it's not too much, I'm asking you to subscribe to my channel. See you on my next lesson.